let's start making our way through the multiverse of Rick and Morty because I've gotten plenty of requests to do Rick Sanchez as a build in Dungeons & Dragons. So it looks like I just have to do it at this point because this is D&D Builds, where we have an outlet to make all sorts of ridiculous Dungeons & Dragons characters and stop driving the people in our lives insane with them. Rick Sanchez is insanely smart and tends to drive his family a little nuts, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. First things first, we gotta pick a race. And of course, we're gonna pick a human, and we want some flexibility, so we're gonna pick human variant. Human variant allows us to choose a feat right away. I'm gonna grab Fey Touched. This allows us to boost one of our stats by 1 point, which we'll worry about in just a second. But it also gives us the spell Misty Step. One of the most notable things that Rick Sanchez has at his disposal is his portal gun. So we need some teleportation right away, and Misty Step is definitely going to help us with this. This also gives us access to one more spell, but it has to be from the enchantment or divination school of magic and still only be of first level. So let's just grab Silvery Barbs because it's infamously powerful, as you can cast it as a reaction, giving advantage to one creature and disadvantage to another. Then when it comes to a background, we gotta lean into Spelljammer because it feels very fitting for Rick Sanchez, and I was gonna pick Astral Drifter because that felt pretty spot on as far as a general idea, but this automatically comes with the feat Magic Initiate, and it forces us to take Magic Initiate specifically for the Cleric class, and most of the spells from Cleric aren't going to help us, and it would force us to use Wisdom. So I don't really want to go this route. So we'll take the other Spelljammer background and go with Wild Spacer. This gives us skill proficiencies in athletics and survival and gives us the feature Wild Space Adaptation. So you learn how to adapt to zero gravity, which I'm sure Rick Sanchez would be pretty used to at this point. You get tool proficiencies in space vehicles, and you get the feat Tough. So you get an extra 2 hit points per level of this overall build. Then when it comes to some stats, we are definitely going to be leaning into intelligence pretty heavy, but let's get through the physical stuff first. Strength, we're going to dump down to 8, and then dexterity will boost up to 14, so he's a little more nimble and able to not get hit all the time, but just in case he does get hit, we'll take our constitution and bump that up to 14 as well. Then we're going to take intelligence, boost it to 14 just like the other two, but then we're going to get another +1 to our intelligence from my variant human racial bonus, bringing it to 15, and then we can boost it up one more time thanks to our Fey Touched feat, bringing our intelligence up to 16. That leaves us with a handful of points left over, so we'll put most of them into Wisdom, bringing that to 13, and then get another +1 from being a human variant, bringing it to 14, and with one lonely point left, we'll throw it into Charisma because he drives plenty of people pretty nuts, but that 1 point is for the few people that do tend to have a soft spot for him. Then when it comes to a starting class, it should be no surprise that he's a bit of an inventor, so we're going to lean into that and choose the class Artificer. When you choose this class at first level, you get proficiency in light armor, medium armor, and shields, simple weapons, a ton of different tools, which we were definitely going to need as Rick Sanchez, but especially those Tinkerer's tools that we get, and you get saving throws in Constitution and Intelligence. Finally, you get to choose 2 skills when you start with this class, so we're going to grab Arcana, because that's going to be the closest we get to sciencey stuff, and Investigation to lean into that Intelligence. On top of all of that, when you choose an Artificer at first level, you automatically get Firearm Proficiency, as long as firearms are allowed at your D&D table. Then the first real feature you get from being an Artificer is Magical Tinkering. So you can magically alter an object to shed some light, emit a recorded message, spray something stinky, or even project some images. Basically just generic technology stuff. Additionally, at first level of Artificer you get some spell casting, but we're going to save all that for the end. Then at second level of Artificer you get Infuse Item. You can know 4 infusions, but you can only infuse 2 items at a time. And this is where we get to start finally inventing a whole bunch of stuff, and while I was tempted to immediately jump in and grab the Homunculus Servant as the first infusion, which would just be a tiny construct that you make to maybe pass you some butter, I think we can probably find a few things that might be a bit more helpful, like probably Enhanced Arcane Focus to help any spell casting you're gonna do, Enhanced Defense for a bit of a deflector shield type of thing, and then you want to replicate some magic items with something like a Bag of Holding, because It's one of the most useful items to have in D&D, and you can treat that as your portal gun, which just opens up some sort of space that you can throw items into, and maybe have that portal directly connected to the basement of the garage. That leaves us with one more infusion, and I want to go ahead and make sure that Rick has a flask to drink from, so we'll grab the alchemy jug. This allows us to create a variety of different liquids within it, whether you want it to be straight up acid or poison, or if you want it to be something a bit more ingestible, like beer, honey, mayonnaise, water, or even wine. Then at 3rd level of Artificer, you get right tool for the job, so you know exactly what tool you need and you can produce it immediately. Then additionally at 3rd level of Artificer, you get to choose an Artificer Specialist. And there was a few good choices here. I was tempted to go with Battlesmith because Rick does make a ton of different inventions that'll help him in battle, but he pretty often uses different kinds of blasters depending on his adventure. So I'm going to go with Artillerist. This gives you some free spells to your spell list, and at this level they both feel very Rick-like, with Shield boosting your armor class by 5 as a reaction, which is one of the best defensive options for a caster, and you get Thunder Wave. But the real reason that I chose this subclass is that you get an Eldritch Cannon. The cannon can either be small or tiny, and if it's small you can even make it have some legs and be able to post up like a turret. But you can also have it be much more handheld with its tiny form. When you create this Eldritch Cannon, you get to choose what type of cannon it is. It can be a flamethrower, projecting a 15-foot cone of fire, a force ballista, just blasting a target, dealing straight up force damage and pushing an enemy 5 feet away, or you can use it as a bit more of a defensive option, giving yourself and possible allies within 10 feet of you temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your intelligence modifier. Then instead of jumping into 4th level of Artificer, which I was really tempted to do, we gotta do a multi-class, because Artificers have some super limited spell casting, and we need a bit more variety for Rick Sanchez. And maxing out at only 5th level spell slots as an Artificer is just not gonna cut it. So we're gonna make use of our heavy intelligence and multiclass into Wizard. When you multiclass into Wizard, you get some more spell casting and you get Arcane Recovery. So on a short rest, you can recover some spell slots equal to or less than half of your Wizard level, rounded up. But none of those spell slots could be 6th level or higher. Then at 2nd level of Wizard, you get to choose an Arcane Tradition, otherwise known as a Wizard subclass. And with all of the space travel that Rick does and some of the custom spells that are only allowed for this Arcane Tradition, I felt that it was definitely necessary to go with Graviturgy. This subclass is from the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, and it's all about gravity magic. When you choose this subclass, you get the feature Adjust Density, so you can magically alter the weight of one object or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you. It has to be large or smaller, but you can make the weight of this object or creature halved, so if it's a creature, its speed is increased by 10 feet, and it can jump twice as fast as normal. But it has disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. But you can also go the other way and double the weight of a creature, reducing its speed by 10 feet, but also giving it advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. And when you reach 10th level of this class, you can actually affect creatures that are huge or smaller instead of large. Then to streamline this a bit, wizards are pretty straightforward. They get stronger and stronger spells as they level up, and they get a handful of ability score improvements. Other than that, most of what they get is from their Arcane Tradition. So let's just go ahead and power through those, because at 6th level of Graviturgy Wizard, you get Gravity Well. So whenever you cast a spell on a creature, you can move the target 5 feet to an unoccupied space of your choice. But the target has to either be willing to move, be hit with a spell attack, or fail on a saving throw against one of your spells. Then when you hit 10th level of Graviturgy Wizard, you get Violent Attraction. So when another creature that you can see within 60 feet of you hits with a weapon attack, you can use your reaction to increase the attack's velocity, causing the attack's target to take an extra 1d10 damage of the weapon's type. Alternatively, if a creature within 60 feet of you takes damage from a fall, you can use a reaction to increase the fall's damage by 2d10. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And then the last feature you get from Graviturgy Magic is Event Horizon. So as an action, you can magically emit a powerful field of gravitational energy. It tugs all other creatures for up to 1 minute or until your concentration ends, because this does require concentration like a spell, but for the duration, whenever a creature hostile to you starts its turn within 30 feet of you, it must make a strength saving throw. And on a failed save, it takes 2d10 force damage and its speed is reduced to 0 until the start of its next turn. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage, and every foot it moves costs 2 extra feet of movement, essentially cutting their speed down to a third. And if you combo this with adjust density, reducing a creature's weight, making it have disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, it can be a pretty powerful way to control the field. But I have to reiterate that one of the bigger reasons that we chose Graviturgy Wizard is it actually gives us access to spells that we don't get access to otherwise. You have to be a Graviturgy Wizard in order to be able to get certain gravity-specific spells. Also, when you do all this leveling in Wizard, you get 4 ability score improvements. So just to power through those, at 4th level of Wizard, we're going to boost our intelligence by 2 points, and then at 8th level of Wizard, we're going to boost it by 2 more points, maxing it out. Then once you hit 12th level in Wizard, we're gonna go ahead and grab a feat. I was really tempted to grab Magic Initiate just because I wanted access to the cantrip Vicious Mockery from the Bard spell list, because that feels very fitting for Rick Sanchez, but most of the time when he's mocking somebody, it's pretty damn good. And with such low charisma that we have in our stats, Vicious Mockery won't be very effective. So instead, I'm gonna grab the feat Eldritch Adept. This allows us to get an Eldritch Invocation that usually only Warlocks have access to. I was tempted to grab Misty Visions because this allows us to cast Silent Image at will, and that feels like a hologram that Rick might throw into place, but I can't help but lean into the infamous Pickle Rick, so I'm gonna grab Mask of Many Faces so you can cast Disguise Self at will. Then at 16th level of Wizard, you get your last ability score improvement, but we're gonna go ahead and take another feat. I was really tempted to take Warcaster because it's pretty helpful for most casters in general, and it would give us advantage on concentration checks, but we already have proficiency in Constitution saving throws thanks to starting off an Artificer, so the last feat I'm going to go ahead and grab instead is Alert. I feel like Rick is always pretty darn aware of his surroundings, and it's hard to sneak up on him, and this feat makes it so you can't be surprised as long as you're conscious. You also get +5 bonus to your initiative rolls, and other creatures don't gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being unseen. So with this overall build, we have 3 levels in Artificer and 17 levels in Wizard, but specifically a Graviturgy Magic Wizard. And by getting all the way to 17th level in Wizard, that gets us all the way to 9th level spells that we have access to, even if you get access to 9th level spell slots a tiny bit earlier thanks to some weird stuff with multiclassing. But we want to make sure we get the actual 9th level spell, not just the spell slot. And speaking of spells, let's go ahead and start filling out that spell list. As usual, I won't grab every single different spell that you have access to because there's a lot being a wizard, but we'll hit all the important ones that make sense for this video. And if you want the full spell list, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below, where I have the character sheets for all of my builds. So finally jumping into those spells, you get 2 cantrips from Artificer and 6 spells from Artificer that can be up to 1st level, and then you can get another 5 cantrips from Wizard and 22 spells. So when it comes to cantrips, let's go ahead and get a wide variety of things. We'll grab the usual damage dealers like Firebolt, Lightning Lure, Frostbite, and I feel like Catapult works for some reason because it seems like something that Rick might just figure out. Then we'll get a few other cantrips that fit for Rick, like Mage Hand and Message, and then throw in Mending as well to repair some of the creations that he makes. Then when it comes to 1st level spells, we definitely have to have Identify because Rick essentially knows what everything is all the time, and Tasha's Caustic Brew because it just kind of feels like something Rick would have handy. Then we'll grab some of the basics like Mage Armor and Magic Missile, but we definitely got to grab the Graviturgy spell, Magnify Gravity. Then when it comes to 2nd level spells, we're going to grab Air Bubble, which is a spell specifically from Spelljammer, but if you're going to spend a lot of time in space, this is going to save you more often than not. And then follow that up with the 2nd level spell, Vortex Warp, because we need a bit more teleportation level stuff in this build. Then when you hit 3rd level spells, you're going to want to grab Pulse Wave, which is another gravity based spell dealing a decent amount of force damage at the same time. Once you hit 4th level spells, you're definitely going to want Gravity Sinkhole to really make use of some gravity magic, and follow it up with Summon Construct so you can summon some robots or things that you built to help you out. Then when you hit 5th level spells, we're gonna grab Create Spelljamming Helm. This is obviously from the Spelljammer book, but it essentially creates a chair that allows you to move through space, air, water, or whatever, and travel up to 100 million miles in 24 hours. Then follow that up with Far Step, because it's essentially Misty Step, but you get to cast it over and over again, so you have constant teleportation. And speaking of teleportation, you're going to grab the 6th level spell, Arcane Gate, so you can just make a portal for other people to use. Follow that up with another gravity-based spell with Gravity Fissure, and then once you hit 7th level spells, you're going to want to deal with the multiverse a bit, so grab Plane Shift, as well as the gravity-based spell, Reverse Gravity. And if you mix Reverse Gravity along with your ability as a gravity wizard to make people take more fall damage, this is going to be a bit more powerful than it is for other people. Then once you get to 8th level spells, you're going to want the very powerful for gravity wizards, Dark Star. It makes a sphere with crushing gravitational force and filled with magical darkness that deals plenty of force damage. And while you're in those 8th level spells, don't forget to grab Clone, because that's just way too relevant in Rick and Morty. Then if you're going to grab anything as far as a 9th level spell, I think the most fitting thing is going to be Gate. But you already have so many portal related spells that it feels like kind of a waste. So we're gonna grab the other gravity based spell, Ravenous Void, which is just all around a scary sounding spell, but it is a massive sphere of destructive gravitational force that you get to summon into existence. If you want my full spell list, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below, just like all of these incredible people, and the especially awesome player character patrons, Alex Baden Person, Benjamin, Caleb Roan, Isabel Walker, Jameson Jones, Carcat Kitsune, Keelan, Melendez Robinson, The Dino 21, Wyatt Newsom, Yaksha Senpai, and Z13. Or going above and beyond all of that is my Dungeon Master level patrons that I actually DM D&D sessions for, which I stream live on Twitch, but I go ahead and post them here on YouTube later. Braden Aldridge, Cyberciety, Daniel Galvin, Demiurge, Devin Happy, Eric Wade, GameSteak, Heyo, Kilo, Michael, Talon Starkey, Tristan Bennett, and Salvador. I'm really happy I got to do this build. I had been getting requests for it for a while, so I'm happy I finally got to pull it off. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty in Dungeons & Dragons.